Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of P.I.P, People in Property, hosted by myself, Adil Niazi. Today we have Kaz, aka Kazy, who has been in property for about 13 years, give or take. He's also known for his community PBK, which stands for Property By Kazy. Kaz, welcome to the show. How are you?
Oh, very well, thank you, brother. How are you?
Fabulous, thank you.
Good.
Couldn't be better. Thank you for coming on first and foremost.
No problem.
Journey wasn't too stressful?
Nah, I'm local, man. This is South London. This is perfect for me.
That's it. And I know you're active from early because early bird gets the worm.
Yeah.
You've already been out to a site, I think, this morning.
Yeah. So I've already been out to a site, property that we bought very locally. Bought it as a 3-bedroom house, planning to convert it to a 5-bed, all ensuite HMO. So it's going to go from getting... So, it's a 3-bedroom masonette flat, go from getting about £1,200 a month in rent, hoping to push that all the way up to as close to 5,000 as possible.
Brilliant. So you're adding value, a lot of value. And hopefully today, guys, we can be here to add some value and give you guys some free knowledge and information because there is a lot of extensive knowledge that Kaz has been in the industry for a long time. So before we sort of get into more about the projects that you do and have done, can we go back to your background a little bit and talk about, if you went to university? Obviously, I know a bit about yourself, but some of the audience may not know. So it'd be good to sort of start from the beginning and see how you ended up in property, or if that's something that you actually was heading to do.
Yeah. So, take it all the way back, always been working, like from as early as I can remember, whether it be from trying to, negotiate with mum for like a 20p to do some ironing, to your first paper round, to my first job, started working at 15 in Primark, was great at that, man. I was an expert shelf stacker, so if you ever need a t-shirt folded, I'm your man. Still got that skill set. From there to phones for you, nice. I still do it, phones for you.
Okay, yeah.
So we adapted that now into PBK.
Okay, yeah.
But so that I think is where I learned a lot of sales in terms of understanding that building relationships with people. And I think that really, really helped me when it came to starting my own business in terms of understanding selling, upselling, building a brand, building a business, and the importance of building relationships as well. I did go to university. I went to Brunel to start with, study economics. I dropped out from there.
Was that first year, second year, or how far into?
I dropped out into my second year, so halfway through my second year. But I still stayed up there because I'd already had a house up there and was like, well, this is fun.
Okay.
And I think I dropped out because it wasn't the right time.
All right.
And I think whatever you're going to do, whether it be work, education, like relationships, you have to do it because you want to do it. And I think sometimes we're like kind of very much like parents said this, friends push this, X, Y, or Z. And so it wasn't the right time for me. Year later, I took a bit of time out, went back to university, more locally at London South Bank, studying the same thing.
Economics again,
and flew through it this time because it was for me.
Okay,
it was for me. I wasn't on campus. I was just in and out. I was just there to study, and it made sense for me. I think that what I learned from that is, the importance of starting a project and finishing it.
Okay.
And, in business, being able to commit to something when you don't have to turn up.
Right.
So when you go to school, when you go to college, you have to turn up. Someone's going to call your mum, be like, Adil went in school today.
Yeah.
And you're going to get like, I'll swear, going to get told off. So but obviously going into university when it's optional, I think it teaches you that level of discipline.
Definitely.
Alongside that, again, started a business. First business was called Shisha Loco.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like a pop-up shisha stand that we used to do. Started in like some local bars, ended up getting to some of the biggest bars and nightclubs in the UK. Then moved on to festivals, then got our own premises called the Buddha Lounge in SE1, so really good location, right stone's throw from my university. So used that to get obviously a lot of the university clientele over there, and it worked very well.
And that must have been quite a long time ago, because obviously I know shisha lounges are quite popular now, but your university...
You just digging me out for being old, really, isn't it?
No, if you're old, then I'm old, mate, so...
So it was a while ago. Like, I think in terms of like the shisha business, we're looking sort of 14, 15 years ago. And then the lounge probably a little bit after that.
Okay.
Early adopter. And I think whenever there's things that happen within a market, so really early on, see, shisha lounges could be inside because you could smoke indoors.
Of course.
Obviously, smoking ban came into place and that was no longer possible.
Right.
So a lot of people look at things like, adverse things to a market and say, well, that means you can't do it.
Right.
But our job as entrepreneurs is really to see issues within the market and find solutions.
Cool.
And solutions create money. And it's the same thing in property. We'll get onto that later. But so I saw that, you know what, can't smoke outside no more, can't smoke inside anymore. So everyone's having to make these nice outdoor smoking areas. The nightclubs, pubs, bars, etc. don't really have anything to sell in there. So we said, look, we'll turn up, we'll sell it to the customer directly. You haven't got to do anything. We pay the labor. We do the setup, everything like that.
Yeah.
You can add it as a USP, a unique selling point to your flyers or whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah.
So it was like a win-win for both of us, and it was creating that value proposition.
And you paid them rent for being there? Or
no, we didn't pay them anything.
Okay.
That was our nego, and I didn't have money to pay them rent at the time. So I was like, look, for you can imagine, you've created this space.
Yeah.
You're not getting paid out of it. You're just there, that the smoker's just going out there to smoke.
Yeah.
But realistically, you know, if you can have it as somewhere where, you know, people are saying, well, some people don't drink. So they're like, well, I want to go out with my friends, but don't really have that much to do.
Yeah.
You're still going to get them out, and then you're going to get their friends coming out with them that are still going to buy more drinks, etc. And, you know, people are sitting down. To some clubs even did it in a way where you had outdoor tables. So you had to buy a bottle or spend more, and you could get shisha with it. So it worked as a win-win for both of us.
All right. So you obviously found a problem there. You created some more opportunities for the businesses to generate more revenue in the sense of bringing other guests that were interested in the shisha, but obviously had to buy the drinks to then obviously make it work for them. That's pretty good. But what made you want to go into opening a shisha place? Like, what triggered that idea?
I think so. It was just.
Were you into shisha?
Yes, it was like, no, so I think I went to Egypt in 2008, I think.
Yeah.
And it was like my first sort of time going there in terms of like the idea of just doing something that you can do along friends whilst having a conversation, being quite laid back. And I enjoyed it. And I think if you are going to go into business, whether it be property, whether it be marketing, real estate, etc., like, you know, you really got to have some level of enjoyment, not necessarily for the product, but for delivering that experience. Yeah. And I think I did. And I think that's why I found it a lot easier to make the business a success.
Brilliant. So obviously uni didn't work out first time round, but you knew what you needed to do, wasn't for you, took a year off. And in that year, what was you doing in that year?
In that year, yes. In that year, that's where I was growing the shisha business. Brand. Initially, I was still, again, I had like an interest in property. So I was kind of just starting to navigate my way. I wasn't invested in property, but I was starting to speak to landlords, to go to sort of development sites, see what I could do. And I think for those that are starting out, that are trying to get like a foot in the door, try and find a way to make yourself useful. Yeah. Whether it be like, if you're great on social media and you're potentially, you know, somebody who's in property and you look at their social media and it's terrible, maybe go and show them some examples of how you can make it better and say, look, I can do this for you if you can maybe give me an hour of your time a week just to help. And I think that's what I was doing, effectively just trying to understand the property business.
Brilliant. So you started to get into property early from there. Obviously, you was in and out of different types of businesses, so you're learning the business aspect of things. You start in trial and error with your own business. The good thing is obviously obviously the whole country had the smoking ban inside. You overcame that and you adapted. And I think that in property as well, that comes into play a lot, because you can be doing a project and then you come across something that, you know, throws a spanner in the works, as per se, and you have to then grow and adapt from there as well. Do you find that those skills that you learned back then, and obviously the discipline that you learn at the level of uni, helps you with what you do in property today?
100%. Like, business is business. Yeah. It's about, you know, problem solving, building relationships, and, you know, finding solutions. For me, that they're three of the keys, sort of like cornerstones that help to underpin, you know, any good business. Yeah. And I think once you become adept in doing those things, you can really pivot into any business that you have enjoyment. Like, if you can sell properties, you can sell pizza. If you can sell pizza, you can sell people and go into, HR, or you can go into recruitment. I think like skill sets are very interchangeable, but really just finding a space that you enjoy is where the sort of golden bit happens.
Yeah, it's hard. People sometimes say, find something you enjoy and then you won't see it as a job kind of thing. But I kind of agree with that in a way, because, I mean, look, obviously I'm here when I say here every day, I'm involved in the business every day. And I don't see it as going to work, because we meet so many different people, firstly, that come from different walks of life. Some of our clients are from overseas as well, so we don't physically get to see them sometimes, we just deal with them over the phone. But I find that the whole people skills and working with people is very important, because you don't know who you're going to bump into. Like, you might have met someone at the shisha business that when you was running that in the future could have helped you as well. So I definitely agree with that you say as well. What made you want to close the shisha business, or did you sell the business, or what was your exit strategy, or what did you do from there?
So with that, it's a life lesson. And I saw there's a guy called Rimsey, I saw recently on a podcast talking about something similar with his burger place in central London. And it was, at a certain point, you don't necessarily have the right level of understanding. So when I took what I thought was maybe a lease early on the premise, it was actually like a license to trade.
Right.
So with a license to trade, you very much, you can operate and it's fine, but it's not like a lease where you have a guaranteed term and you can renew at the end. So you can't invest the same amount of money because at any point in time, you could be given notice, and it's literally like 2 months, like you're on a rolling contract of an assured short-hold tenancy. So the reason was there were some issues, for example, with plumbing and leaks and things like that, but it wasn't my building and my premises to go and invest in the long term because I didn't have that level of security.
Okay.
So I think that really was something that made me think, you know what, ownership is important, and pushed me even further at a quicker place into going into property because I wanted to be more in control of my own destiny.
Yeah, for sure. That definitely makes sense. And a lesson that you learned early rather than later on down the line, because you could have been expanded that business, had several sites, and all of a sudden someone could have just pulled the rug from under your feet and you're like, right, I've worked hard to bring it to this stage. And
there was like a basement that was like 500 square foot, could have been amazing. Like we could have had like a separate club underneath, no noise issues, but it was like full. It would have cost, like you're talking anywhere from like 60 to 100,000 pounds to refurbish. And obviously you've got a long-term lease, you know you can be there for the next 10 years. You can look at it and say, well, I can make 10, 20 grand a month out of this space. So I can make the money back in 6 months.
For sure.
But without that level of security, and I think that's where, when people are getting started, particularly in property where mistakes can be expensive, having the right people around you to dot the I's, cross the T's, and to make sure you don't make those costly mistakes can be invaluable.
Good. So a lot of life lessons there for you early on, which is fabulous. What made you want to go back to uni? Because obviously you dropped out the first time because it didn't feel right for you and didn't sit well, and you thought maybe you was partying rather than studying. So you thought, I'm not going to waste my time here. What made you want to go back?
Do you know what's mad? I wasn't even partying. I was sitting on Call of Duty. I'm like
it was a gamer.
I'm a nerd. So I'm like a low key nerd. Like I just want to, do you know what I mean? Just chill. But I think one of the reasons why I went back is for the same reason that I genuinely enjoy learning. Like I enjoyed the course. I just wasn't in a place where the structure made sense for me.
Okay.
But I enjoyed the content of the course, like what I was learning about. And I know a lot of people will say, oh, well, you haven't used your degree, you haven't, gone to work for a long time in finance or in, wealth management, but I genuinely enjoyed it. And I think I wanted to go back and finish it. And I think starting something and finishing it is very important, in terms of commitment, in terms of showing like who you are as a person. I'm glad I did. Till this day, whilst I don't work in the industry, a lot of the skills from my space of that flipping properties, deal analysis, understanding numbers, the use of spreadsheets, running macros, using Excel, but having that level of due diligence has been invaluable. So, I think it's still been really beneficial.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with you, because the course that you was doing, you didn't have to go into the finance sector, but in property, it helps a lot for the reasons that you've just mentioned. And I know you're good for your spreadsheet. So for people that need to understand more about property spreadsheet, you need to join the PBK community, because he has everything on lock there, even the contacts, like you're saying, building relationships and stuff. You got it all in sort of one place, which is good. And now you're sort of sharing the knowledge, but we'll come into that a bit later on. So obviously, just furthering your journey from there, while you was at uni the second time round, was this after your shisha business had stopped, or was it carrying on? Simultaneously.
So literally, if my uni's here, it's like road, and then there's the business. So it was ideal. Could walk around the corner, It was good.
And I suppose you was at the shisha lounge, should I say, with your laptop and your shisha, just cracking on with some words.
Just finding that work-life balance. It was good.
Nice. And where did you take it from there? Did you realise when you was at uni that you wanted to get into property, or did that come a little bit later on down the line?
I think it all sort of amalgamated into sort of like a blur at that point, in terms of between, I've got to finish uni, but I want to get into property, and the business is going well, but there was too much going on. And I think there was a sort of a transition where I was doing everything, but I was burning a candle at both ends, because you can imagine I'm trying to finish uni. I'm running a business where, you know, you might close between like 11, 12, 1, but then we still got to get the shisha stuff like all sorted out, packed to wear and what have you, tidied up. Then might have an early morning with university, so it became
burning out
a little bit of burnout, a little bit too much all at once. And yeah, sort of made the decision and made a decent amount of capital. The business didn't have the longevity because of security, so I wanted to transition into something that had more security, more longevity, and was more probably. I didn't fall out of love with the shisha side of things, but I'd done it for long enough where I didn't have that same passion and wanted to go into something where I felt like I had the passion for.
And it sounds like it was taking up a lot of your time, whereas obviously property takes up a lot of your time, but don't get me wrong, you're not going to be out with builders at 11, 12 o'clock at night or down at B&Q if your builders forgot to get something.
But do you know what's crazy? Like, and I think this is like a common misconception, that people think like, oh, I'm going to be self-employed, and it means because I'm going to be self-employed, I'm going to have all the time in the world. But the reality is, when you're first self-employed or you're first the CEO, like, you can't just switch off your phone because it's your business. You can't just not answer that call. So like, and you can't just go and, unless you're starting with a good amount of working capital or in a place, like when I was starting, for example, some of the rent-to-rent stuff again early on, I'll be there like after obviously we've managed to sign a deal like with an agent, but like, I'd be there like maybe putting up some of the furniture, going to get the dress items. I remember like the most annoying thing was, you know, IKEA curtains, they come in one size. Yeah. So you have to cut them down, and I'm there with the iron.
You was doing it,
with the seam, like ironing the seam, because it was early, and I think particularly when you want to understand the standard you want things done to, you shouldn't do it forever, but it's always good to understand the standard. So when you want to build out processes, you get it. And I have this conversation with people that say, look, I want to outsource to a VA. And my first question is, can you do what you're asking them to do? Yeah. If you want them to go and cold call and get leads for rent to rent, if you can't do it, you're not going to be able to teach somebody else or know when they're doing it wrong, and it's going to create a bottleneck. Yeah. So I always want to understand the process first and then try and implement second. And
then obviously you can check on as well if they're doing it, because sometimes it's not what you expect, it's what you inspect, isn't it? So if you're hiring someone to do something, but then like you say, you don't know if they're doing it right, you can be just going on a downward spiral, really, isn't it? That's good, I mean, good to get hands-on, definitely. I mean, that's something that I've done with all my businesses as well. You just mentioned putting the flat pack furniture together, and I remember doing that in our first couple of Airbnbs as well. And then after that, sort of think, you know, what is my time being used correctly or to the best of its ability? Can I be going out and getting another deal after that? So, you know,
100%. Like, you do have to delegate, you do have to systemize. Yeah. And I think sometimes as business owners, we struggle to do that. Like, we want to do everything. But what you realize is, when you become like the focal point of everything, you create a bottleneck because everything has to come through you. And you do have to understand that, you know, if you don't hire the right people, don't get the right people in, the business only has the potential of you. Whereas if you've got 5-10 people working underneath you, you can 10x the potential of the business, and you focus on where you're best, whether that be in business development, oversight, you know, administration or sales, or whichever, you know, plays the strongest into your wheelhouse.
And then you can hire the best at the other best in the field for the other roles, and then you can grow much faster. We actually met, I think it was 5, maybe 6 years ago initially, and that's when we actually gave you a couple of properties for your HMOs.
I think it was longer than that then, because I think I set that business up in 2016, and I think I left it in 2020.
We must have been 2017 then.
Yeah, so it must be that. You think about it, time flies. That might be even 6-7 years now.
Yeah, for sure. That was Shore Rents, I think.
Shore Rents,
so I'm saying for sure. And then Shore Rents.
There we go. He's a professional.
That's it. So the HMO side of things, was that the first thing that you jumped into in property?
No. So a lot of people start with rent to rent because it has a lower barrier to entry. Yeah. Because I was really fortunate in that my first business pre-property made a significant amount of capital. I actually started in the flips and development space. Right. Well, no, that's a lie. I started independently doing rent to rent like way before it was even called rent to rent. Okay. Just off the back of, you know, having, you know, whether it was friends, family with properties that lived overseas that were getting poorly managed, maybe by an agent or by another friend, and just saying, you know what, there's an opportunity here. So I started with like some rent to rent super early on, sort of like 13 years ago, pivoted into the development side of things, and flipping properties and buying, and, you know, the 1 to 2 bedroom strategy. But then for cash flow was like, you know what, I'm making these chunks, but I'm also having to spend them because I don't have an income.
Yeah.
And wanting to understanding that really you need a combination of both cash flow and, you know, building capital.
Yeah.
So that's where we pivoted into the rent to HMO sector.
Right. And that's how we met. Okay, fine. So what was the first flip that you did?
So first flip that I did was...
If you remember, of course, because you've done
Yeah,
way.
no, we've done a lot. But again, I think first flip that I did was in Sydenham.
Yeah.
It was an auction purchase. I bought it with a bridging loan. That was maxing out my capital, so I think I was at like the extent of all the money I had,
Right.
plus credit card, plus whatever else.
Yeah.
So I was like, and I remember speaking to my broker at the time, John Green, who's still my broker now, and he was like, Kaz, like bearing him obviously my age, he's like, hey, are you sure you want to do this?
Yeah, you know.
Like, yeah, nah, I've got a plan. Like in my head, I knew everything, you know, like youthful, confident, charisma, etc. I said, yeah. And I did have a plan. So I bought this 1-bedroom flat, housing association, big, about 68 square meters.
Yeah.
Had a big separate kitchen. So we took the separate kitchen out, added that to the living room, made it from a 1-bed to a 2-bed. So not only obviously was it an auction purchase, so that means it had less people that could buy it, so got it at a lower price.
Yeah.
It also needed a lot of work, so we had the renovation, and then obviously we were changing the layout, so it was really a triple threat of problems with the property that we could turn into solutions and add value to. So I think bought for just over 200,000, 200 odd thousand, and sold for 310, I want to say, within about a 6-month period.
That's a quick turnaround and really good. Was you pleased and happy with that experience?
Yeah, like I learned a lot. Like don't get me wrong, I was pleased. I think obviously I didn't have a lot of experience.
Yeah.
I had like a very high rate on my bridge because of that, you know, my level of experience.
Yeah.
I probably tried to use contractors that were too cheap, so ended up having to kind of
do the same job twice.
Do the same job twice. Yeah. Spent a lot more time having to chase people because people have gone out on a bender than that before. People just not turning up for work, meaning I've got somebody on site I'm paying a day rate to. The plumber's not turned up, so they can't do their work, and you're paying twice. So I think I learned that cheapest isn't always cheapest when it comes to time or money. From a design aspect, I always remember this. Like I think I'd just come back from Dubai for the first time and stayed in a really nice hotel, and they obviously had these like lovely designs where it had like, you know, massive bathroom with a TV behind the mirror in the bathroom. So I'm going to do that. So I put this...
You went all out.
It's not even from a monetary perspective, from the design, obviously, area. And I think, so I put this TV behind the mirror in the bathroom. And I remember one of the feedback from the agents, like from like somebody who viewed, and they were just like, I just don't understand why it's wasted the money. Like, it's just a waste. Like, and they didn't offer, and they really liked it. But it's like, and I think from that I learned, like, you know, don't over personalize.
Yeah.
Give a property a good level of finish. Think about who's going to live there, but don't just do what you want. Try and make it tailored to the market.
Yeah, I was going to say it comes back to the target market, isn't it? And those numbers obviously do show that it was a long time ago, because to find something for £200,000 now or even 300,000 be quite tricky in the Sydenham area.
Yeah, but you'll be surprised. Like I bought a studio flat. Again, it's still a while ago, it's still like 5 years ago. That was sort of peak of the market in 2017. Bought a studio flat for 170, converted it to a 1-bed. Got that to 300, albeit it did have a lease extension. It was about 17,000, but again, still that's 187 with a lease extension. One of my guys that I work with, he's just had an offer accepted on a flat today in Croydon for 145.
1 bed?
1 bed.
Yeah.
Potential to turn it into a 2, maybe a 3-bed with full planning to go into the loft. Looking at
is that ex-local housing?
No, this is this is open market, 1960s, 1970s, purpose-built masonette. But yeah, probably got potential of getting that to about 280 if they get it to a 3-bed. So yeah.
Yeah, but again, that's Croydon. I think it has little pockets of it where you can find the cheaper units and stuff. But I think Sydenham's gone quite high in value.
Yeah, Sydenham's high in value. But I think there's always opportunity. It's always going to be like, it's always that its prices are only going one way in the long term. Yeah. Like there might be little peaks and troughs of the markets where you see things like that. But if you look at the market over a longer trajectory, it's just like this, and it's going to continue to go up. But I think there's always deals to be had. You know, you can always make money in any market as long as you buy at the right price day one.
Yeah, and you have the right vision of adding the value, like you say. But there is a phrase that they say, what's expensive today is cheap tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because like you say, it's only going up. So if you spend 300 now, if you've got the long-term vision of retaining as well, which I think you retain some of your stuff, then that's going to be worth 400,000, 500,000, 600,000 in the future. So your journey, I know you've had other property businesses as well. You've come into like the HMO side, you've done the flips, you've got your community. How do you manage your time now? Do you have people that work with you and that you outsource stuff? How do you work it all out?
Yeah, so I've got like a combination of UK based and then overseas staff. So I've got staff in the Philippines.
Yep.
And they've been, amazing. Rebecca, love you. Don't go anywhere. Rebecca's literally been a game changer for me. It's like as a landlord that self-manages, gone from, managing a portfolio of like 20 units, which includes, HMOs. So by that point in time, you're looking at probably 40 plus tenants. Yeah. She now manages all of my compliance. I'll be that certificate. She manages all of my tenancy preparation. She manages my referencing. She manages any like issues, maintenance contractors, renewals. So that's freed up a lot of my time from the day-to-day more repetitive tasks. In terms of social media, got someone that manages my social media. Then I've got a full-time executive assistant. Again, big up Simone, does amazing work for me, keeps me on track, like works alongside the community. Then got a project manager for the build side of things. And then outside of that, I let the experts do their thing. So from an architectural perspective, everyone knows I always shout. And I always shout people out because I'm so, if I use someone, I'm not just going to not speak on them. So Alex from AA Drafting and the whole team over there, I rely on them. Yeah. If I'm looking at something and I'll just be like, look, you do what's going to get me planning. Like, because forget about what I want to do with a stupid developer that's got all these grand plans. You do what's going to get me planning, and we're going to have a bit of a discourse and a back and forth to decide, okay, what's going to maximize the value. But I trust the people that know what they're doing to do their stuff. So trust my solicitors, trust my broker, like John Green at Hawks Financial, trust Yodi at Alfred James, and all these people that I allow for them to be great so that I can be great and I can focus on finding the next deal, focus on like doing a deal analysis, and focus on the things that I think really work in my skill set. Brilliant.
Sounds like you've got a solid team around you that's helping you grow even faster, which is fabulous. So now coming back to, you just said what you do your day to day. What kind of projects have you got on the go at the moment?
So we're busy at the moment. So we've just finished the ones literally up the road. We just sold. So that was a house converted into 2 flats. If you haven't already, check out the YouTube. We've got a part 1, 2, 3, and 4 coming out, taking you all the way through it being like a derelict house they were growing weed in to being luxury flats worth, between the two of them, just under sort of like 1.2 million. So really, really nice project. Outside of that, we've got a HMO conversion we mentioned. Not this week actually, last week, or depending on when this comes out, basically mid-Feb, we had a busy week. We bought 4 properties this week.
Wow, congratulations.
2 have exchanged already because they were auctions. Another 2 have had offers accepted. We've got offers out on 2 more, so hoping to do 6 deals this month. They're all literally the same thing. And ironically, that first deal we spoke about being 1 to 2 bedroom conversions from housing associations, of those 6 potential or 4 guaranteed deals, 3 are identical, and the other 3 are not from housing associations, but are 1 to 2 beds.
There's enough rooftops to go around for everyone, to be fair. And funny enough, you said about the 1 to 2 bed. It's good that you've got the blueprint for that, and you've got the blueprint for lots of different strategies. And you can have, you might be on an auction site looking at loads of different properties, but then that one strategy might not work for all. But then you can implement the different strategies, like the BRRR, the HMO element, the conversion of 1 unit into several units, or even the 1 to 2 bed. We've done one ourselves actually in the Grove Park area, and we chose to retain that one. Again, the kitchen was in a large room that we turned into a bedroom. And then we had this sort of like massive storage area, cupboard space that was like just had a fridge and a washing machine in it, and just dead space. So we ended up putting the kitchen in there rather than in the living room. So now we've still got a good sized living room and so on and so forth. So we turned that into a 2-bed and retained that, with your 1 to 2 bed conversions, do you retain them and pull the money back out, or what's your strategy for that?
So the thing is, a lot of the time you can pull the money out and you can refinance. It's not as easy now with interest rates going up and the affordability calculators based on the rent run isn't as easy. But even when it was, my rationale was, look, like, you know, if you do a really nice flat, and like some of the ones I'm doing recently, I'm buying in Fulham, in Brixton, New Cross, and Maidavale, quite expensive areas. Some of these flats are going to be worth £600,000-700,000. So even if you can pull your money out, you're still going to have £150,000, £175,000 in the deal. Yeah. And you've got to look at really how much money that's making you. Because whilst you can keep it, if it's only making you £300-400 a month and you've got £170,000 in the deal, your return on investment, you know, is really low. Yeah. And it's really hard to find a property, you know, that matches and ticks every box, i.e., you can add value. It's also going to have a great yield. So what I prefer to do is, you know, do those flip, get the money out. Yes, you pay the tax on them, which is a downside, but then having the money back means you can go again and grow your working capital pot faster. And if you do want to retain assets, then focus maybe on those properties that work really well from, you know, a HMO space or maybe commercial units that yield a lot better. Right. Because it's hard to find something that ticks all the boxes. And if you're looking for that perfect deal, you're going to be a lot less proactive in the market. You're going to be stuck,
really, aren't you? Not going to buy anything then, because there is, well, we're saying no perfect deal. There are good deals out there.
There's your unicorn deal, but I think there's a common misconception that people find those deals, get lucky. And whilst there's an element of luck to it, luck favors the proactive. Yeah. So the ones that I've kept that do tick all the boxes, it's maybe because I've done 10 of them and it was the 10th one that was actually the unicorn deal where you got all your money out, it yields really well and ticks every box. Well, I think for those that are wondering, why is it not me that gets lucky? You're not going to get lucky sitting on your sofa in your boxes. You've got to get out there and do some business.
For sure. And you've got to stay active, which you're obviously doing. I mean, when I came to meet you on a Oak Forest Still area that day, he was in the car on a live auction, although he was having a bit of stresses with it, your banks stopping your payment going through and all that dramas, but he was active, you know, he was waiting for me to turn up to the appointment, to look at that unit with you, and he was active. So you've got to stay active to see the reward, you know, you reap what you sow at the end of the day. So you, in a lot, obviously you're releasing capital by doing these flips, but let's say you've got enough capital, would you not then just choose to retain it, or do you think, you know what, the numbers don't really stack up, so what's the point of retaining it?
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong, like from a cash flow perspective, I do retain stuff, got like a number of HMOs that yield well, got some properties that work really well in the Airbnb space, and you know, in terms of just general serviced accommodation. And over time, I will look to retain more assets. Yeah. But I think you're in different parts of your journey. And for me, I'm still currently in that wealth creation mode where I'm trying to create wealth. Yeah. When I get to a point where I kind of want to wind down, spend less time being active, focus on the passive income, I'll then be in a space where I'm in like wealth preservation. Yeah. And that's where I'll say, you know what, I just want to kind of consolidate and control what I have as opposed to growing to have more. Yeah.
And with purchases, obviously not some people that are watching may not have the experience of doing the purchases. Do you buy in SPV, so a special purpose, set up basically a limited company to do your purchases, or do you buy them in your own name?
So I have bought in my own name. Yeah. At present, I would generally buy in like a limited company. So I have holding companies and I have trading companies. Right. And as you mentioned, sometimes if I have any joint venture partners, I would set up in an SPV because you'd want the freedom of disposal. And all have their own benefits. With changes in taxation, in most instances, it's more efficient to buy in a company, but it's really still circumstance specific. And I say that because although you can no longer claim like the interest element as an expense in your personal name for a buy to let, it's still going to be circumstance specific, because let's say you're on a really low rate, you're a really low tax rate player. Yes. You would, basically what I was going to say, forget about being on a low tax rate, but depending on your personal circumstance, if you need the money from your rental income, even though you've got it in a limited company, you're going to have to firstly pay the corporation. So first you pay your corporation tax, so 20%. Then if you pay that money to yourself, this is either going to be dividends or income, which is either going to be 20 or 40% depending on your rate. So the double taxation. So I would always recommend speaking to a personal tax advisor to base it on your circumstances as opposed to just a generic answer of, always buying a limited company, because I think if somebody tells you that, they're not necessarily, they might be looking for the soundbite, but it's not necessarily going to be the right place for everyone.
Oh, and also, this is not financial advice, guys, because none of us are financial advisors. So this is like tips.
So that's, that's literally exactly that, because it's not financial advice. My advice is to speak to an expert.
Yeah, perfect. So your flips are going well. You got your plans set out. I was going to say, you touched base on saying that the one downfall is that you have to pay tax on the capital that you've earned on the developments. Now, I know you love to fly out to Dubai. So this is a bit of I don't know if it's a curveball or not, but you may already do this, but have you not thought of or do you have a company set up in Dubai where you can maybe have that company as like the holding company or something along those lines, where you sort of...
So I do have a company set up in Dubai, but it's for a completely different business. So I have a separate business, 45 Inc. in Dubai, and we focus on brand management and event management for corporates, and that's like our primary focus out there. In terms of mitigating tax in the UK, you will speak to you'll see some pop-ups on like Instagram or wherever your social feeds are, sort of talking about it. I think it's very much a grey area. And I think I would always recommend, if you are looking at schemes to be tax efficient, just run them by not just the person that's selling it to you, but also your existing accountant and maybe somebody else. Because what you don't want to be caught up with is, tax avoidance, which can be super, super costly. Dubai is a great market for a number of reasons. There's a lot of money that could be made out there. If you're good at property here, you can potentially make money over there. But again, just like I said, of anything, just speak to the experts and go with what you think is right, not just what somebody's telling you is right.
Great. And before we start talking about your PBK a little bit, what's your long-term goal? Obviously, I know you've got your several different businesses. You've mentioned one is out in Dubai as well. But obviously, your main core business, from what I understand, is property, right? Where do you see yourself going? I'm not going to give it like a time frame, like 5-10 years, like most people say, but where do you want to get to? I know you said you want to do wealth preservation, but so what's your goal?
So I've been doing like the same sort of stuff for a long time, and I've done all sorts alongside it. So I've done airspace developments. You've seen like commercial conversions we've done just up the road from here. Done flat conversions, done new builds, done luxury homes, done basically you name it. I've done a little bit of everything. What I haven't done is like large development schemes. So we're talking like 30, 40 units plus. Got a partner that I'm looking at some of those with. I think in terms of doing things to really leave your mark on a city, like having like, I don't necessarily, it has to be called Kazy Heights, but, having maybe a little tower, like obviously we've already got the stuff that's named after like my grandmother, like with Khadija Walk and Khadija House, and that's really nice. But again, I'm not stuck on that. My thing at the moment is more time and flexibility. Like I want to build a life where I can decide what I want to do at any given moment. So whether that be up sticks and go and live in Bali for 6 months, or whether that be decide that I'm going to go to the Philippines and learn to surf for 4 weeks. Like I want to create that flexibility, and a lot of that flexibility unfortunately comes through money. So building obviously my passive income as well as my businesses and systemize. But I'm not the guy that has I want to get to making 100K a month, or I want to get to making this. For me, it's all about like, I just want to make sure that if I ever want to do something, I have the means and the flexibility to do so.
So time freedom, and obviously that financially, that sort of comes into play as well. You need to have the funds to be able to do that. That sounds brilliant. Lovely. Before we do wrap it up, tell us a bit about PBK, because I know you've got, there might be a waiting list now. I'm not sure, to be honest with you, but how did people get involved? They want to start doing business with you.
So our PBK community effectively was set up, along with the Instagram. A lot of it was very off the back of a request. So, we came to Instagram because we've been doing it for a long time, had a lot of content. A lot of people were seeing, I like what you do. Can you mentor me? Can I shadow you? How can I work alongside you? But I'm first and foremost a property developer, and that's where the majority of my time is. But I also wanted to be able to help the people that have obviously like given me their time, their love through obviously supporting my journey. So we set up a community. So it's a community. It costs £199 a month. You join our WhatsApp group, And that WhatsApp group, not only do you benefit from my experience and expertise and the experience of the community as a whole, so loads of other, seasoned property developers at different stages of their journey, but we also have our in-house experts. So we have a lawyer, an accountant, an architect, a mortgage broker, mains contractor, and so all the people that you would need in the property space to basically stop you making those costly mistakes. So our sort of tagline is, obviously, when you join, you can take your next step with confidence.
Okay.
So that's effectively what it is. We have like our bi-weekly Zooms of industry experts where we talk about all different things, whether it's like HMOs, whether it's rent to rent, whether it's buying at auction, and things that come up in the chat. We then make sure that we facilitate that so people understand. But it's great because there's some people in there with money and no expertise. There's some people who have expertise and no money. Has some really good examples of people that have recently collaborated. I think we've been running for about 6 months now, had some amazing success stories, multiple people doing 6 figures plus in their first deal. And that's where we're at. So at the moment, if you don't already, you can follow me at Property by Kazy on Instagram. And then we've got our mailing list there. You join our mailing list, and whenever we've got slots, you'll get early access before they go out to the wider, community. We're launching now on the 20th of February. So we're going to be launching 30 new slots for new members. And then we close off because we want it to be a case of when you join, you really get on board, you understand the community. We purposely curate a culture where we grow together. And then once those members are settled in, maybe 2 months down the line, we'll have another batch and another sort of batch of new members joining. So if you are interested, if it's not currently open, join the mailing list, and hopefully you can become a member soon.
That's it. So people do ask me on occasions, how do I get into property? Can I shadow you and all this kind of stuff? Now, I don't personally have the time, but Kaz has got a lot of experience. He's been in the field for a very long time. You just heard from himself all the different avenues and strategies that he has. He's got the blueprint for pretty much nearly every strategy, bar the big blocks that he was just saying. I mean, he may have the strategy, but he hasn't implemented it yet. And he's got all the contacts. So we'll put all the information in the description below. You can get in touch with him, obviously, on the Instagram. Join the mailing list, and obviously, hopefully, you can be the next person to join the community and start your property journey. Kaz, thank you very much for coming on the show. Appreciate your time.
Appreciate it.
And hopefully, everything runs smoothly from here, which I'm sure it will. And we see you grow from strength to strength. And you never know, we'll request a part 2 with more questions, and we'll see.
No problem. Any questions, I'll try to come to the comments and make sure I come and answer them. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. This has been P.I.P, People in Property. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode.